right.
Thanks for keeping waiting.
Are we on, ready to go? All right. Welcome everyone to the Atkins City Council meeting for October 1st, 2024, a special council meeting. We'll begin with Pledge of Allegiance. Last call allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll begin with the roll call for this evening. Members present. Thank you all for coming. We have E.J. Bell. Present. Jim Kane. Present. Trevor Dursky. Present. Samantha Peterson.
Present.
And David Fisher.
Present.
Thank you, everyone. I want to welcome tonight Graham Valdez from the Specialized Recruiting Group, Express Employment. And we're here tonight to discuss or participate in a work session for a city administrator search and discussion on those matters. And so at this time, Sandy, would you like to introduce anything into the discussion or go right to Graham?
I can go right to Graham. The one thing I will note on the agenda tonight is the ability to take action. And so Graham and I talked about after your discussion, someone can make a motion to, either, accept what the work that was done tonight and then maybe set a time frame for posting, that kind of stuff. So that action item is available to you.
Okay. All right. Graham, welcome back to the City Council.
Yes.
Thank you for coming again, and I'll let you take it from here then.
Sounds good. So yeah, it's nice to see everyone in person, to meet everyone. And then, yeah, I mean, thank you guys, obviously, selecting us, giving us a chance to help you guys out with the situation. I look forward to getting this figured out. I know we met with everyone, spoke individually with all the council members. So one thing that was promising is everyone actually does have ultimate goal in mind. Everyone's pretty common across the board wanting a city administrator that's going to come in and have a vision for the future of the town, and hopefully that vision would include growth of the town, including more commercial business coming in, just overall growth, and increasing the attractiveness of Atkins overall, which is great. So if that's a change from anyone, I mean, let me know, but that seemed pretty common across the board. Everyone that I spoke to unprompted said that's what one of their main focuses were, someone that's going to come in and have a vision to help this town grow. The other thing that was common across the board is they're looking for an individual that's going to ingratiate themselves into the town. They don't want someone that's going to feel like, it's the town and the city administrator, it's two separate entities almost, or I guess even half-party is if they're a third party, but someone that actually is going to feel like they're part of the community, have some sort of emotional connection community, which I think is important for what you guys want overall for the future of the town. You're going to have somebody that's going to want to take onus and ownership of seeing this town through all the different projects, all the different things that need to be done. And so when it comes to other things about the role, I know there's some difference on opinions of what we don't want necessarily. My biggest advice would just be no hard lines on disqualifiers. You have hard lines on what you want experience-wise, what you need. From what we've talked about, based on the amount of increase in planning and commercial real estate that's probably going to need to be done. Also just an overall ability to attract business. Someone with that experience is probably going to be a certain type of person or mindset that I think everyone's going to agree on. You're going to want that individual that's used to dealing with individuals, that knows laws, ordinances, codes when it comes to commercial planning, dealing with commercial real estate. So that person's probably going to check off a lot of boxes too when it comes to just overall understanding the importance of laws, codes, ordinances, being up to date on all those things, because I know some individuals are wanting less government experience, not a lifelong, I guess, government employee. The one downside of using that as a disqualifier is the potential bringing somebody in that doesn't respect or understand the value of code and ordinances. But then also, with that being said, I do understand individuals that don't want someone that's just a public sector employee for their whole life, because part of what everyone's somewhat expressed as well too is they do want someone that can look at City Hall and the office city as a whole, making sure everyone is operating, working efficiently, just looking at the overall team, making sure that there's not wasted time, wasted resources. As a position that's maybe someone spending 30 hours a week doing, does that only really take 10? Are all of our finances being spent as efficient as possible? So with that being said, I know a lot more leans to the private sector for certain people just because they think they have that experience, or someone might be more likely to have that experience when it comes to, like I said, looking at efficiency, how to get better, process improvement, I guess is the short way of saying it. So, like I said, I understand the draw to that, and my thought process too, and honestly what we'll be looking for is will probably be somewhere in the middle. And you're probably going to want to look for individuals that are in the middle that have both enough, I guess, knowledge to be dangerous when it comes to the public sector, like I said, laws, ordinances, codes, but also that private sector experience with having to be efficient and having to work with maybe smaller budgets than what a government budget might be, because it might be whatever it is when it comes to private sector. So with that being said, I guess where do we want to jump off as a group and talk about anything maybe I was wrong on, or anything, build off of anything that I said with just overall mindset of the person you guys want to bring in. And then this too, the job description is it's a rough draft. So feel free to write on it, mark on it, make any notes that you have, because I'm going to collect them. So that way I can take into account, share with my recruiters as well too. I mean, everyone's notes from my discussion as well too to cross-reference, but feel free to write and mark up on these job descriptions. This is just a rough draft, and I'll send out a finalized draft of what the public posting would be. Any questions over anything?
Graham, thanks again for putting this together. When you discuss with the council and just your professional experience in the executive search, do you see certain attributes that from our discussion and experience too, that should come before others as far as some of the, whether it's interpersonal skills or the knowledge of the type of business we're in as far as municipal or the planning?
I mean, so I guess start with interpersonal skills. It's going to be somebody that is calm under pressure, because if there's going to be as much growth as everyone's hoping for with the town, bringing in new companies, new business, new attractions, just trying to grow, obviously there's going to be a lot of change. A lot of people are going to have a lot of opinions. So interpersonal skills, there's somebody that doesn't get flustered by hearing people out, that has the ability to digest and process that. So we're going to have someone that's in some sort of leadership role, dealing with a team, preferably a team size of about 10. You don't really need to get more than 10 people. I mean, you don't want to get hung up on, oh, they need at least 20 or 25, just because human beings at the end of the day are pretty similar. There's like 4 to 5 different personality types. So if you have a team of 10 people, probably enough leadership experience, but we want some. So I guess unflappable, but that leadership experience, and then also some sort of, I guess, experience they can point to in their previous work experience to where they've shown process improvements, that forward-thinking mindset. Because again, if you guys are wanting, City Hall to run more efficiently or make sure it's running as efficiently as possible, so there's no wasted resources, they have to have some sort of experience or show or point to how they were able to improve the process or improve the efficiency of their team or their department, whatever it is they were overseeing. And then the other thing when it comes to experience, I would say that's important is it's just, again, just the understanding of ordinance, laws, and codes, just because with the city government role, it's ignorance isn't going to be something that you guys can really afford, especially with how much is coming in, or you're hoping to come in when it comes to the commercial planning side. So you're going to have somebody that understands whether or not they're getting railroaded or if they're getting, quoted too high or whatever it is when it comes to the commercial real estate aspect. So city planning, urban planning, some sort of commercial real estate background or knowledge, I feel like it's going to be, again, another just kind of hard skill experience to look on. If that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we want to, I mean, when it comes to executive searches, job searches, you want to find like big rocks and little rocks. You want to find about 3 to 5 big rocks that are like, we need this person to have this experience or this skill set. And then the little rocks are the preferreds here and there, but we'll call them little rocks because if someone's missing or lacking, we're not going to disqualify somebody. Might put somebody over, but we don't want to disqualify because at the end of the day, it's a piece of paper, it's a resume. We don't want to waste time by interviewing every single person that we come across, but we don't want to disqualify somebody because if they come in and they can check off all the interpersonal skills and all the, demeanor, mindset, just, you kind of get that feeling where it's a heck yeah. I don't want to swear if I use another term, but a heck yeah with the candidate. Sometimes you have that feeling after meeting with someone that you just feel good, it's a fit. So we want to give ourselves the best chance of getting someone in here, so we don't focus too much on disqualifiers, but I would say those 3 to 5 big rocks. And then again, you can still figure out the little rocks, what's important too, just to help be differentiators when we get several candidates.
Sandy, who types up the minutes right now?
Right now.
You do it. I think that we've got to have some indication this is an individual that, in addition to the qualities you haven't spoken on yet, but they can do that type of work individually in isolation almost, right? And a self-starter for those sorts of mundane tasks. The minutes are what they are, and they become critically important at some point in the future that you don't know when you're writing them out. And so somebody's got to approach it with some seriousness. And I highlight that one specific piece because I think it's probably easy for us all to forget about it. Again, until 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later, and the minutes are kind of what either could save the city or could serve as evidence that the city did its due diligence in a situation that occurred. So
yes, I just look at that as you are correct, but like ensuring the city's complement with all of the state laws. I mean, that's a law that has to be done, because they have to be put in the newspaper. They got to be all that stuff. So
somebody that will do that without individuals looking over their shoulder to keep up with it is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Because that's different than leadership. We're kind of looking for somebody that's going to be able to check a lot of boxes. Right? Leaders and managers in a lot of cases have grown to the point where they grow, they get energy off being around their teams, looking forward. And this is going to be a role where we need people to do kind of be a self-producer as well as a leader.
Yeah. So you'll want essentially like a C personality type, which is very organized, like by the book. It's I mean, we're not gonna have anyone take a disc assessment, but we'll want someone with that, an I and C personality type, the inspirational, and the, I think C is like the control, but essentially that person that has some sort of leadership skills, charisma, but then the C is the very like regimented, documented, like they need to know everything by the book of what's gonna happen. I would joke it's your college buddy that has to know everybody that's gonna be there at the party before they show up. I mean, they're still gonna be the life of the party when they get there, but they need to know all the details ahead of time. But yeah, because again, it's the respect and the understanding of those laws, ordinances, and codes, how important they are, but then again, the discipline to actually follow through and make sure it's being done, so.
I'd like to talk about that some more. It's our city laws, ordinances that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, but then state laws as well too.
Understood, but that's not what it said in this specific. Oversees city planning efforts, ensures compliance and with government ordinances, regulations, and local laws. So they're not gonna know our ordinances and what we've got here, so.
But they're gonna need to have a willingness to learn.
Right.
Yep.
That's what I wanna make sure that's clear, that they have that ability to go out and seek that information out.
Mhm.
We've got a perfect resource with Sandy. We've got a perfect resource with tree stuff. God, that was just drawing a blank that we have hired as well. So it is, you know, a lot of our stuff, you heard it the last time you were here, is in chaos. So we're trying to put everything back into order that is completely out of order, and something we don't even know what we got.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, you don't need someone that knows the local laws like the back of their hand now, but you at least need to have someone that knows what to ask, of where to look to find them, and even the thought process of to ask. It's, one of those things where they don't even, like, again, they're not even asking or know where to ask, or even, that's not even a thought process because they're just so unfamiliar with it. So, correct, yeah, it's someone that even has the mindset of wherewithal. And that stuff too, during the vetting process, which we'll get into here in a little bit, but I mean, those are types of questions and things during the vetting process, the first 2 steps in the interview before they even get to you guys, to go through and hash out and see if they even have the mental faculty or thought process to work through those things or to think of those things.
I think you did everything here real well. We're not going to get this. I think one of the advantages we have, one of the things I'm looking for is someone that's really comfortable with themselves. A million towns around here, it's a one-person operation. We've moved past that now. So in my opinion, somebody that is able to recognize their strengths and weaknesses and not feel threatened, willing to supplement their weaknesses with the people around them, which is part of the team building. That those to me have always been the most successful people that I've worked for, with, and around. You get someone that's a little bit uncomfortable with their weaknesses and don't see their strengths, and then they tend to gravitate to yes people, and the team doesn't work. They don't last very long as leaders. We're fortunate now in the fact that we have a position here in the staff. We've grown enough to where we actually can support more than one person in the office there. So that would be really, if we get somebody that works in that environment, I think it'll really help us be more efficient in all of our operations.
Makes sense. Yeah, I feel like someone for you guys that's confident, like you said, with their decision making or thought process, but then with the ability to explain the why behind the what, because there's going to be a lot of why questions, obviously, from you guys too, when it comes to the future with finances, budgeting, what's going to be allocated for resources. So someone that has the ability to explain the why behind the what, and if they're confident, they're usually less defensive when explaining their whys.
Now, that's somebody that's willing to go out and pull resources in if they don't have the personal knowledge, I mean, the information is out there, but they're not threatened by pulling in outside sources to help us on specific projects that they are a little bit uncomfortable with, that, you know, they won't hesitate to seek advice from others.
I'd like to see the council talk about tonight the supermajority vote for hiring process as well.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of that. I think it should be at least a 4-person. Just so that person can feel confident coming in that they have a majority. Because then it would also make the council have to force itself to maybe compromise on things. If, you know, some might like this, some might like that, blah, blah, blah.
I would agree that a minimum of 4-1 in favor should be, you guys' expectation or standard, hopefully, you know, 5-0, all good super majority, because again, like you guys said, someone coming in off the right foot with, you know, public records and knowledge are gonna know if it was a 3-2 split or 4-1 or 5-0, and I think most rational individuals could stomach a 4-1, especially if it's someone's confident in themselves. I can get, they might have one person that's doubting them, but yeah, 3-2, then, you know, quickly turn to 3-2 the other way. People start, even the most confident person knows if half their quote unquote bosses weren't in favor of hiring them, then they're starting off on rocky ground, but that makes sense. And I guess we can jump into from there. So our process is gonna be, you know, our recruiter's gonna identify somebody, call them, most likely video conference call with them, depending on where they're at. So video screen, video interview. And then I'm gonna meet with them as well too. If I can, it's gonna be in person, within reason. You know, if someone is in one of the 4 corners of the state, and they're a 4.5-hour drive, then I might have to do virtually with them, but at least 2 face-to-face screenings on our end. And then the next part would be figuring out then, how do you guys wanna do your part for the screenings when it comes to the interviews? I guess, how's that been handled in the
I was
past?
gonna say, do you expect to do them like as a group or as they come?
That's, I mean, that's what I guess we'll figure out is what you guys prefer, because we don't want to do, obviously, individual, a 6-step interview process allow for anyone to go through. And then that's not even counting our initial 2. So obviously everyone needs to be able to speak with the person, or at least, you know, get some sort of vibe, but
Yeah, I don't think that's my point. I think the council would need,
Yeah.
would do it as a whole, you know, but that means that we have to call a meeting. Typically in searches, you would interview 3 people, you know, in a day or over a weekend or that kind of stuff. And even in the industry, it's not uncommon for the candidates to meet each other, you know, to actually interact, you know, not dissimilar to how you were interviewed, where you saw the other company, you saw them present. In this case, they would be allowed to request a closed session, so they wouldn't, you know, actually see each other being interviewed at their request. But you know, personally, I tried that, you know, doing it one at a time, and that was, you know, that's hard, I think, because you don't have anybody compared to, you know, I think it would be easier. I think that was my recommendation to get to this point, was so that you know, you see some finalists, you have a list of 7, you pull it to 3, you know.
yeah, I mean, preferably, ideally, it'd be, you know, we have 5 to 6 individuals, and then do maybe 3 at a time and meet with all of you at once. Just so we'd be figuring out calling the meetings and whatnot, because the person you guys want to bring on should be comfortable being able to interview in front of all of you, because they're going to be consistently speaking in front of you. So, I mean, that's going to be one disqualifier. If they seize up and they start getting this cold sweats and feeling faint, then we know it's probably not going to be a good fit. So then I guess would we just assume, let's say, you know, we find once we get several candidates, at least 3 candidates that we think are a good fit, send them over to you guys. You want to meet them, then we would just call a council meeting from there and figure out a time to schedule all 3 for 1-hour sessions each, 30 minutes. I guess how long do you guys typically do the interviews? At least I would assume 45 minutes.
at least.
Yeah.
I would agree. I would say 3, because that's what kind of what we did when, Sandy and the other couple, I mean, 3 would be a reasonable in an evening or whatever. Could be a 3 to 4 hour potential meeting, in a closed session, so.
Okay.
But don't hold it up if you've only got 2 candidates. Put them people in front of us and let's keep moving and
Yeah.
keep looking if need to be.
So yeah, max at minimum 2, so it's obviously worth your guys' time. I guess if we find 1 rock star right away, we can send them, but at least work to get it to 3 at most, and then if we find another section of 3, then we can do another round, and then obviously if you guys of the first initial batch, if you guys find a rock star, that's the other thing too, is if you find someone that checks off all the boxes, don't waste your time. I will see a few more, like if you guys feel like you get that heck yeah from a candidate, then I would recommend moving on it. Too many times I have clients that, again, they get hung up on the little rocks and they're like, well, let's get a few more. And the next thing you know, you've fed a few more candidates in, it starts messing with their mindset. But then the worst is when the candidate you already interviewed, that was probably your best one, you're heck yeah, but you wanted to see a few more, then it's all of a sudden off the market. So, especially with today's market, it's just craziness. So, okay.
Do you expect to set a deadline for applicants, which would lead to better pooling of candidates, I think?
I guess,
Talked about this a little.
yeah, I guess my deadline would just be if they want to make an offer kind of thing.
Well, I was saying, I've seen it before where it says like first review after, October 15th, so that, because I think there are people that will, they kind of want to wait till the last minute to apply, and you have to give them the last minute so they know when that is. But that way you might pool,
I'll probably do
Even though I
something in the
agree.
title or the job description where it's ASAP, you can fill right away, looking to fill a role within the next 2 to 3 weeks, have the person start, something to create a sense of urgency so they don't wait. So if they get impulsed by the job description, then they will reach out and apply right away versus just coming back to it or, thinking, oh, well, if I have a few more weeks and then whatever, their dog gets sick and then they forget to apply and then they try and come back 3 weeks, 4 weeks later or whatnot.
My only other question was, if you've researched about the confidentiality of candidates, and I don't know how the council feels about that, but one of the reasons you use a recruiter typically is because Graham can keep names confidential, whereas we can't. Typically, there's some law about it. A lot of times, just like, public sector government employees have different, in the private sector, nobody has to know you're looking for a job. So my current employer, and find out I'm looking and, retaliate or something. And so it's harder in the public sector to do that. And so I think it would be just a good idea for you to kind of research that and figure out at what point does because some candidates are going to say, when does my name become public? And usually once they come in front of the council, it's not on the agenda, but typically if somebody asks, we have to tell them who it is.
But it could be a closed session,
The interview is closed.
the interview, yeah. So in other words,
The interview would be closed, but I mean, the name would be public at that point, wouldn't it?
Typically, yes. Typically it is.
I mean, I feel like I'm just telling candidates that once you get selected for in-person interview with the council, at that point, your name is most likely going to become public.
We would tell people the minute you get on a plane,
Yeah.
you better tell your current employer that you're.
I think one of your challenges, they were talking about getting the majority of the council behind this person, but anybody that's done any research is going to find out that we haven't had a council person stay on more than one term for 15 years. So the council's going to change every 2 years, no matter who their job is, whatever support they get now, completely changes in 2 years. And anybody from the public sector is going to recognize that, but that's a challenge that they're going to recognize too, so it makes that position much more difficult to.
And part of reinforcing them to candidates too is the importance of wanting to get involved with community and meet the community, because community members that they're interacting with might become council members if the turnover is like that, the history of the council, so it's just reinforcing, they're really looking for someone that's going to be wanting to be a part of the community and willing to listen and work with all community members, and just as, kind of reinforce, hey, here's why, you might have someone, they've had.
Whoever is the most
administrators or
descending
people in
maybe on the
past-
council next time.
Yeah, being standoffish to community members, the next thing you know, they're answering to them, and that's just unhealthy. So, yeah, I mean, it's just reinforcing what we're looking for out of individual on the soft skill and interpersonal skill side, and all of it kind of, there's a rhyme or reason for it all. So, but that's good, Am, to reinforce so they know we're not just kind of blowing
Right,
smoke
right.
anywhere. It's like, oh, yeah,
We need to
I'll
probably
get in
got
with the community.
Anybody that's been in the public sector more than the private sector would recognize people in the private sector are going to anticipate a managers that are going to be in that position for more than just 2 years. And if they're moving jobs or something, that's a challenge.
As far as, Graham, as far as introducing the candidates to the community, so they have a feel for the town itself, would you be available to lead them around as far as on the confidential side of it?
Keep the council clear out of it so that we are involved.
Well,
I think that'd be possible.
I guess,
Once they come here as a finalist, but that's how the name gets out,
right,
is
sure.
really, yeah, there would be an expectation on most people that they want to come
Well, I
see
mean,
what is here.
yeah, well, the good thing then too, because that could kill two birds with one stone, is if I want to meet with anybody in person, then I can schedule time to meet them here, even if it's a different day and we get figure out, but meeting them here in town and just taking them around, driving them around. You guys can also give me a checklist of stuff to make sure to any of our tours go by and see, so that way they can get an idea and a feel and an understanding. Obviously, where the new fire station's gonna be, things of that sort. But yeah, that's definitely something I can do, where meet with candidates, whether it's, I can figure out a schedule or just be here all day, because just go to our Cedar Rapids office and work out of there, and then meet with candidates here to take them around town, and then if they're meeting with you guys later that night, so be it, or the next day or whatever it is.
Well, I think this is a pretty complete list. I appreciate the time that you took with each of us to put all this together and listen to each of us individually. Like I said, I feel like it's pretty complete. My question for Sandy would be, with your experience and what it takes to do the job, is there anything missing from your perspective on here?
No, I think, Graham, I think you did a great job. I literally wrote one word on my, and that is regarding staff, add the word supervise. You have lead and develop a team of department heads and city staff, but this position does supervise all city staff. I think that's critical.
And then I don't know if I told, there's a backside too, just to make sure everyone's like, the backside.
But no, you guys must have done a really good job. Instagram, this is very good.
Yeah, a lot of notes. I mean, like I said, everyone actually was pretty consistent about what the most important things were. Obviously, everyone has different with the smaller stuff, smaller rocks, preference of how we get there, but the end game is the same for everyone, which is nice. So just the means, how we're gonna get there.
And Graham, you have the ordinance, correct? It's, I think I sent that to you in the proposal stage. We can go back. Go back. And that's a piece that once you get to that finalist piece, that I think finalists will want to see that ordinance that literally lays out what the council said that this position is required to do. By that ordinance is city law.
Well, then, too, with candidates we identify, we can, have the job description, but usually they ask for any more details, and then we can send them.
Yeah, I mean, this is better, more approachable, but the ordinance is actual requirements.
The salary listed here, I think that's what we had budgeted, correct? Is that why that?
That's just the max, that won't be publicly posted. I won't
Okay.
put the salary one because then people think they're entitled to that even
Sure.
if they're not. So, it's just, I just put it there because that was the max budget, but that won't publicly be posted because then you'll get candidates that are underqualified that
Mhm.
won't apply or will apply to it, and you'll have maybe candidates that are qualified but are looking for more, whatever it is. We'd rather get them sold on the role and the possibility and whatnot, and get excited about that versus just they're gonna be making a dollar amount, because quite honestly, they're probably gonna be working harder than what they're gonna be getting paid anyway in the next few years until things can get, smoothed out and get some traction. So, but yeah, I just put the max what the budget was, just more too as a reminder for myself.
So, do you have access to data that, like, will you give us some advice, I guess, for lack of a better term, on what the range should be, or,
Yeah, I
when
can
you
do
bring
that,
someone in,
and
you
I'll-
can say, like, this is my recommendation, or what,
Well, we ask, what they're currently making, if they're currently employed, or their most recent position, if for whatever reason they're not currently working. Ask what they either are making or most recently making, and then what their floor is or their range, what they're looking for, and then if it's within reason and within budget for you guys, then we'll tell them, yeah, that's within what you're looking for. We try not to give them a specific amount so they don't get set on that. But yeah, we'll tell them it's within reason. But if you guys want a detailed, kind of market analysis analytics, I can look up and poll. And this would be something, honestly, if we were running into roadblocks, we're finding the qualified candidates, what they're asking and looking for more than what the budget is at this point. And so, for a reason, if we're getting hung up on lack of experience in a certain area or whatever it is, I can always pull and send you guys what the market analytics look like for a national average for salary for this role, and then specific for Eastern Iowa, Cedar Rapids area, if we're off the mark or not. But again, that's something if we're running into roadblocks, we're finding maybe quality candidates, but just not in the right realm for salary range and what they're looking for.
There are a number of these positions open in Eastern Iowa right now. That was made, the comment was made to me today. And so you might want to take a look at it worries me a little bit. I don't know if you saw Fairfax is advertising for their first city administrator. They're, you say 2,500, 2,900 population.
Yeah, just over 3,000.
Just regular, it's right down the road, and I think their posting is higher. So, I think that would be good for you to just know going in.
You also have to compare, if we're working on money, towns that are in proximity, as we're fairly small there because of our growth, because of the closeness to the big cities and the corridor, we're going to be a lot more difficult to get people at a lower price range because the competition is here. There's a lot of towns around here that are in a position now to be looking.
And I only say that just so that we're not, you don't lose candidates right out of the chute because you're just not understanding the market that they're looking at. If somebody's looking for this kind of position, what else are they looking at the same time? So we don't look like we're not in tune. And every city's different too, we all know that as well.
It's a very dynamic environment right now, too, and that's a concern.
That is true, yes.
We're asking for a lot.
Yeah, well, with good reason. And
I
again,
understand that, there's an awful lot of towns of our size that are not in the situation that we're in and don't have the challenges that we have. They'd be a lot more stable. They've already got extra help in their office. They've been running reasonably well for a number of years.
and sometimes too, the individuals will find the challenges. That's the exciting part.
That's
the
what
attractive part.
we need somebody that's looking for a challenge.
Yeah, with that aspect, we'll probably have to have a mindset of someone that's greener, looking to kind of make a name for themselves, work their way up, versus someone that's maybe looking to have this be, retire, find a way to coast into retirement, because if there's gonna be that much work and that many challenges, then it's just.
They
a
may have
different
been
mindset.
used to something if they're from a bigger area, may have been used to a little more workload than this, but they want to, like you said, coast into retirement.
So yeah, that too, yeah, if they're used to looking over, a much larger city population, and they don't think a town this size is gonna be too much, and they can kind of, go through the motions of economic.
They're
growth,
actually
development.
overqualified, but for some personal reason, they're willing to do this. But in cases like that, I think money is going to be the factor that we're going to have to entice them with.
We shall see. This is gonna be the fun, is asking them, figuring it out.
Graham, how will you post the salary? Will it be based on experience, or you just leave it open, is not mentioned? Or how do you-
Just not mentioned. I mean, we'll discuss it with them, but just leave it not mentioned. Because again, we want people applying, and this is more on our end for the recruiters, having to screen and filter people out. We want people applying because they're excited about how the role sounds versus what the salary is. Because, I mean, even as it is, I mean, I had, one of my recruiters was laughing / complaining this morning because he has an automation engineer role posted, and he has a salary posted with it. He's getting guys and gals with McDonald's and fast food experience applying just because they see it. He's like, don't have an engineering degree, guys, so you're wasting time. So that's why we just try and refrain from putting salaries if need be.
Can you talk about how you will advertise as well?
Yeah, we actually just started an account with ZipRecruiter. So we added ZipRecruiter, we have LinkedIn, and then we have Indeed. So those are 3 job board postings. We could also, I believe, post for free on Facebook, and then if we're not getting a lot of traction on Facebook posting, we can pay, I believe it's like $500, and I can talk to my bosses, but we can pay, I believe it's like $500 for a posting on Facebook as well, if we want, which honestly we probably will, because these types of roles, Facebook is probably, I think you recommended Facebook, I believe, I'm not sure. But someone I was speaking to about this recommended Facebook as a good possibility as well too. So, for sure, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, and LinkedIn, and then 4th possibility would be Facebook, and then anywhere when we post, it goes onto our website as well too. But
And we'll want to link to your website. I think the best for us is to link to your website.
Yep.
There are a number of posting services throughout the League of Cities has one,
Yes.
as well as some other organizations that are related to the financial officers of Iowa, as well as other states. They go outside the borders.
yes, if there's any other job boards that you're familiar with, because yeah, I know there's certain organizations, guilds, whatnot, that
ICMA,
Well-
International City Managers Association.
International City Managers Association.
What's this, the national arm of League of Cities? Kind
When we put together the first job listing, Mickey Shields helped me through posting it on the Iowa League website, and then I don't know if it was ICMA or it was another organization's email newsletter that he included it in as well. So we can make sure that Mickey gets a hold of it too.
The other one that I was asked about was ClerkNet, which is the Iowa City Clerk Network. ClerkNet, I don't have access to it, but Mickey might be able to.
They can push it out through.
And because those are the small cities, they're very active.
So can you give, Graham, I guess, will you guys correspond then on these additional job boards? Or
Yeah, I mean, I can reach out.
I was gonna say, I think, maybe like a report to council about where you end up posting them. Does that make sense?
Well, this is my kind of next question. I think we're getting there. Yeah, what's our next touch point?
Well, anytime it's over 2 council members, I have to include the city of Atkins email. What's the email address again?
City clerk is what
City
you
clerk.
should, yeah. And the other thing you can do is always send it to the city clerk email address, and I can send it out to the
Okay.
full council, whichever you prefer, it doesn't matter at all.
Because I can give one weekly updates just where we're at in the search process. And then, yeah, because I mean, next steps after meeting here with you guys, I'll go home, finalize the job description, reread it a few more times, and then finalize it. And then we have our Wednesday mornings, we have our meetings, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, but Wednesday morning I have a meeting with the recruiter. So I'll meet with Chris, who's in the Des Moines office with me, and then Jenny, who's here. She's actually just writing Independence. So she'll be working on it as well too. She's our top recruiter. She's top 10 in the country out of all the offices we're affiliated with. So those two will be working on it. She sent me a list of questions I actually needed to run through with you guys before we conclude, but we'll meet, we'll get it posted, and then once we start screening candidates, I mean, we'll go from there. I'll give you guys updates. I can send out email update to everyone once we have all the job boards posted, where it's posted. I hope you guys know that as well too, but at the end of this week, I can get an update, and then again, end of next week, if you guys want. I do Friday updates, I can do Thursday updates, but at least once a week to kind of let you guys know where we're sitting at, whether we have candidates for screening or if we're, running into a dead end for whatever reason, or whatever the issue is. If there's no issues, if things are humming along perfectly well, because, they're going smoothly, then we'll have to start scheduling council meetings with the candidates and all of that. So yeah, I can do weekly updates, no problem. Maybe, Thursday or Friday, or Wednesday, whatever day you guys prefer, just let me know.
I think if you could get that to Sandy, whatever her timeline would be, and she could tuck that into her Friday report, that would be good.
And I get that in on Thursday or early Friday, because she sets out her
Okay.
notes on Friday that it tie right in real well.
So I can make sure that's sent out by Thursday evening.
And then just a specific data point that would be good is just job board source and then number screen, number forwarded. So I would just like to, I think it's interesting for me where the volume's coming from. And even a sense of how many are you fielding that we don't ever see, that are never going to come forward, but just to give me an indication of kind of work rate for the screening.
Makes sense. So even do you want me to update, like,
We got
once we
30
reach out to?
candidates, LinkedIn, 30 candidates or 30 applications, 5 disregarded, 25 screened, 2 forwarding onward.
Okay.
Kind of like that progression, but same for Indeed, same for.
Yep. So yeah, KPIs of, and then, yeah, then we can tie it into even past that we reach out to, because they might, we might have candidates that don't apply, but we reach out to because we do a candidate search and their qualifications based on the keywords that we're looking up, poll. So I can just have them to update, count it towards the LinkedIn candidates, the ZipRecruiter candidates even, but yeah, I mean, we can track that, let you know how many we reach out to.
However you want to break that down.
Yeah.
The candidates that you directly approach versus passively receive. But just an indication of how the funnel's working.
Okay. That works too, because like I said, we just signed up for ZipRecruiter, so we want to see how, because it's expensive, so we want to be tracking those things anyway, so.
And Graham, will you be putting together anything as far as a brochure or a kind of sales pitch for the community? In addition to the posting itself, as far as.
I mean, not a brochure, but I can definitely hit the city website, and then too, I mean, the city tour as well. I mean, that'll be in-person brochure, but I guess, and you guys have any recommendations of selling points or things you'd like me to point to, even whether it's virtually beforehand, or, I mean, I can also obviously reach out before we start doing the tours, but just things you guys would like me to sell point to the community. I know we had talked about, the community is labeled as a growth corridor within the growth corridor, so I have that written down as a selling point. Obviously, distance to a metro is going to be another selling point, but any other selling points that you guys want to make sure that I get across to candidates?
Well, for those in the municipal side of things, there's certain data points that might say make it a community more attractive. Things like the median household income, the some of the census data, which they could pull from various sites, but if you make it readily available to them,
That's okay.
it's,
Where can I pull, I guess, yeah, where could I pull that type of stuff to just make it readily available and kind of give a quick facts?
well, with the, there's the Census Data IO is a good summary. It's one that pulls right out of the census data, and then you enter the name of the community, state. But from a municipal point of view, there's things that, everything from the poverty rate to the mix of the demographics, 60 to 65 versus 30 to 45, things like that. So,
You mentioned median household
Yeah.
income. I'll tell you that is significant for the city of Atkins. It's very different than Cedar Rapids. I mean, just as an example, that's a standout.
You know, good.
In a very good way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, in a very good way. Yeah.
I assume since you're
Yeah,
smiling.
sorry,
but-
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a differentiator from, other communities this size.
Yeah, I think there's an intangible that you can at least start to tune them in on, but they're really, the right person really could see this as a potential opportunity to make a name or to navigate a challenge, however you want to phrase it or however they would internalize it. But even as this council is I think experiencing, the town really is at a turning point or an inflection point. And the right person with this council making the right decisions really could be in on the ground floor of something very rewarding to be a part of. There's all the growth and investment going on the south side of Cedar Rapids. The Iowa City Coralville corridor can only handle so much.
Yeah.
Right, at a certain point, and there's another data center now coming to town. I just think that there's a confluence of events here that the city of Atkins would, if it gets prepared for it and managed it the right way, it could be a great thing for the residents here. And if we don't, we can mess it up really bad. And the growth is gonna happen regardless.
Yeah, it's either, yeah, the town's gonna be on the vote or miss the vote type of situation.
We could probably pull in some words and paragraphs too, if you would like us to, on some of those data points that have been presented to us as far as why this area is selected as it is from Cedar Rapids or from Atkins to Tiffin. So.
Yeah, I would say yes, because what I can do then is just create part of sending the ordinance with them, but then just also a little like kind of selling point cheat sheet, or essentially brochure type, but just, here's all the positives about the potential here. So yeah, any of that information you have, just send my way and I will gladly take it to add to our little cheat sheet selling point. What is that for, by the way? Sorry. Is that just all past pictures?
It is.
They pulled that out after the derecho was up in the attic. It was the leftovers from when we did the centennial book in '82. Just stuck that up there after they were going through some boxes and stuff.
A lot of history.
Yeah, very early history,
Yeah.
through probably the mid-60s.
Mayor, would the Benton Economic Development Organization be another good resource?
Yeah, that's who I would.
Yeah, you might look up their website and,
Mhm. And there's a video on there of Atkins, kind of shows some of the events that take place. We have watermelon days, we have some information on there about the school district. But, we can-
And that's the website's the Benton Economic.
development organization.
Right, and development group, EDG. For Iowa. It's important to use Iowa when you mention Benton because there's quite a few counties.
And there's also an Atkins, Arkansas, just Just FYI, we get calls from them a lot, more than a
Yeah.
lot. It's really odd.
I'd like to see what Atkins, Arkansas looks like.
They,
I have some.
they call you and ask things and then, I don't think we have a street named that, you know? So,
I think
it's a
they
robust
allow-
community.
So if I understand correctly, you're gonna, I think we're looking at next week, correct? Or are you expecting tomorrow's meeting to already?
I mean, we'll start the process of searching for candidates tomorrow. So, I mean, we're gonna start the search process ASAP. Tonight was get this stuff down, let me hold this up.
Just out of curiosity, do you guys even have any people in mind?
We have one referral, my boss has someone in mind, so I have to look over their resume. He was just waiting until we met tonight and kind of finalize what we're looking for. I'll look over them, and then I didn't know Sandy.
I have a couple that I.
Okay. And yeah, Sandy said she had a few individuals, so, if somehow the universe graces us and we'll find them out of one of those three, but I doubt it. But, we have at least 3 potentials to start with, and then, yeah, tomorrow we'll start the search. Let me pull these questions up before I forget. And we kind of, and I assume yes, but one question Jenny asked, what are the key budgetary responsibilities of the city administrator? Will they be expected to address any financial issues such as deficits or cuts? So she wants to know if there's going to be any experience with grants or other funding resources important for this role.
That's one of the things where we are really lacking, that we do need in growth, whether we have that in this position or we try to find outside sources for that. If we're going to grow, we have to have somebody that's knowledgeable of TIF and grants,
Okay.
at least a cursory
See, and that's,
knowledge that they could ask for assistance on.
TIF, I would put TIF and grants in a separate bucket. To me, TIF is alongside the AFR, and that is alongside compliance with existing laws. Pursuing grants, to me, is a different skill set, and I guess I might be in the minority on this one. I would call that a little rock, precisely because we might be able to engage consultants or additional advisors in pursuit of that narrowly. I just think when you get into the world of grants, there's so many potential grant sources.
I actually agree with that,
Like,
the way you present that, yeah.
It's not a grant writer, it's not a grant.
well, and you could quickly be pricing for the wrong talent.
Well,
Because what we really do need is an administrator,
right.
you know, versus a town, like a business development grant writer, whatever you want to phrase it.
You don't want to drift over into
I would
a
hate to lose our
salesperson.
ability to do all the other things on this list and get a 100,000 extra every 2 to 3 years in a grant. If that's another way to put it.
I mean, you have to be able to manage grants and then don't confuse, like just today, you know, the Department of Treasury wants us to report on the ARPA funds. That's grant administration, you know? So, you know, every federal fund we get, every dollar we get from the federal government is considered a grant, you know.
Right.
So there's budgetary responsibilities that you have to learn the rules of every one of them. Do you walk in with those rules? No. I mean, you know, show me in a past job where you've managed funding sources, you know, because the other thing is revenue, rates, you know, I mean, half of our money comes from rate revenue. So,
Well, would we say the budgetary experience or responsibility / knowledge, or at least knowledge, would be a big rock though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and holding departments to budgets, having conversations with departments about their budgets.
It's a key component of their task, probably a third to half the year, really. It's part of the formulating that. those documents, and those documents are fairly specific too in their roles.
Yeah, because I think in that realm, when we were talking about selling points and that kind of thing, is generally you would tell applicants the size of our budget, that, those kind of, it's demographic of the city, what revenue we bring in and where.
What, I guess, what is the size of the budget that we're able to share? Okay.
Core changes.
Let's say, this year it's 8 because of the fire
The city,
station, but
the city government considers debt a source of revenue.
but it's really 4, we're really spending, yeah. This year we'll spend.
Discussion for another time.
Those are the requirements.
But you have to understand that, right? I mean, this
You
year.
do,
this
you do
year
have to,
the
it's not 8
CDC
million every
study-
year, it happens to be 8 because the proceeds off the bond are proceeds.
Okay, and then another question, are there specific areas of focus such as infrastructure, housing, sustainability, well, that was tricky. Need to have experience, I mean, we talked about that, some sort of experience with commercial real estate, commercial business, just bringing in, I have to assume,
That's a little rock for me.
okay,
Just would say, I actually have the experience negotiating commercial real estate deals lined out. I wasn't gonna go there, but, because I didn't want to, I took your initial advice and I didn't want to put hard lines or disqualify, we leave it open. But,
I'm in agreement with that as well. I had that marked out as well.
yeah,
that's a little rock.
the administration side of this and the ability to resolve conflict, to navigate difficult conversations to me is way more important than somebody that's got credentials on a lot of deals closed or transacted.
I just believe some of that stuff, when they get in the door, they already have all these more positive things, this would come easy to them.
Right.
I just
They'll
think,
pick that up.
yeah, I just.
The developers are gonna come,
Correct, and they'll be in that learning curve, but if they've got strong leadership, I don't even think this will be a moot point. Especially on that side.
And then just to confirm, because part of her, I mean, she talked about what is the level of community engagement, which we talked about, that's going to be expected. We want them to be engaged with community. Any upcoming challenges related to the community relations that the city administrator will need to address. Obviously, fire station, right? And then isn't there a water infrastructure project that needs to be addressed as well too?
Open space plan,
Right.
not community engagement.
There's, it's an ongoing thing in any city, is the continual progression of the infrastructure. So it's a day-to-day activity.
Actually, the fire station, water, and open space plan are really the 3 good examples of the variety of community engagement. From an actual building to future need, infrastructure need, to the esoteric of what should parks look like in the future for the city.
And that rolls into the planning side of things. It's like we heard in planning, I believe.
Yeah, it should be second to last one line down. Well, there was experience within bachelor's degree in public administration, urban planning, related field. And then underneath that's the proven experience in city management, urban planning, or municipal government.
Yeah, and I think communication's a big rock. I mean, the individual that has the foresight to see something that's gonna be an issue and act early on and communicate quick with the council members, with the community. I just think that's gonna go a long ways towards getting us in a different trajectory here. There's been a couple very specific incidences where I think if it had been acknowledged earlier that we needed to talk sooner, we might not have found ourselves ultimately in the position we're in. So I don't know what you guys think, but I think communication is going to be pretty critical. The other things can be learned. It's just more a question of work ethic or drive at that point.
And which, I mean, I tie in this communication, strong leadership skills, demeanor, but I feel like with the communication, I mean,
Communication is just top of the line.
they're gonna have to articulate, well, that's
Yeah.
part of the interview process for you guys, they should be able to articulate, I mean, with me giving them a heads up on these new projects, you know, giving them the selling points, different things, but meeting with you all, you should be able to, and you guys have articulate your vision, and then.
I guess my point is the fire station is one thing I can tell you now. I can't tell you what the issue will be in a year. I need this person to identify that as it's happening, right, and get ahead of it. And so experience doing that is what I want to hear them tell me about.
Well, I mean, the other things, I mean, I assume with the projects you guys have going on, you run into different issues or different things that popped up. I mean, you could always tie that into to saying, hey, here's the projects, what types of issues would you look for as an example to see if they would even think of stuff that you guys came across. But again, that's going to show type of mindset that makes sense. I mean, you guys have these 3 projects that are going on. Part of talking to potential candidates, like, hey, you know, here's an example of these 3 projects we have currently going on. You know, in this role, what are some things that you would, you know, if this was starting brand new and you're in charge of this, what are some things that you would look for as potential issues or potential hiccups or problems or whatnot?
Right.
I mean,
Suss up the thought process.
Yeah.
Good answer, we'll refer back to the person.
yeah, because if they're not thinking of anything, or, you know, then that's a red flag, or if they knock off, you know, 3 or 4 issues you guys maybe have popped up, and that's something they will, you know, bring up with unprompted, unknowing what they would have thought as a potential issue, then obviously then that feels better because, okay, at least we know someone that's gonna be thinking of those things, like you said, what could potentially go wrong, you know, what can go right, but then also what can go wrong and set us back type of thing.
That's good feedback.
One of the, under qualifications, you have experience negotiating commercial and real estate deals. But then you also say familiarity with economic development strategies. And it's something you guys referenced. Is there the experience negotiating commercial and real estate deals? I'm curious of where that is coming from, because that isn't how I would word it.
That one is just, that's from me thrown in.
Is it?
Different, yeah.
I think we're generally okay with that not being.
Yeah.
That's what I heard, and that's why I'm thinking, I would not say that most of the city and people I know have ever done. It's not phrased that way, it's called economic. I keep thinking what we would talk about is economic development strategies. That's what we're working on right now to fill those commercial spaces. Our side of it is economic development. We work with people who are doing real estate deals, but we're not part of that.
There is no negotiations from the city's standpoint on any of that.
I mean, they're kind of.
That sounds more like
and
a commercial
that kind of stuff.
rather than
Tiffin
government.
zoning and.
I don't want somebody to think,
Right.
oh my gosh, I've never done a commercial real
Yeah.
estate deal. I couldn't do this job because I don't think that's. what
Right.
it is.
That's where I was coming. I agree.
I think this list is way, way more than I expected. I'm okay with it. I'm just really interested if you put something like this out to field the candidates and see what we actually get and then
Yeah.
work with that. You know, I'm.
Part of this too is put it too much to
Yeah.
then whittle out, because
Well,
human beings have a short attention span, so it's trying to
yeah,
get the kind of the hot key things, what's important, that there's gonna be some at least general understanding what's gonna be expected, and then, but we don't want it too long, so yeah, I expect it to be crossing out all different things here and there. So when it comes to, since we're on the topic, because that's one of Jenny's questions, economic development, strategic planning, you know, process improvement, all that, what is the experience timeline you guys are looking for? For someone, is it 3 to 5 years, 5+?
we haven't done a strategic plan since 16, and it wasn't that good then, so I don't think that's gonna be a real time-sensitive issue at this point in time. You know, basically, like Trevor says, administration, getting our office in line, recognizing the situation that we have here, and
So then how
it's,
much experience would you want someone with that type of
yeah,
experience?
well, recognizing what our situation is and the problems that we currently are experiencing existing, and get us moving forward that first or second step until we can get to this. I just think that's, in my mind, that's the most critical thing right now, is to get the office operating efficiently, getting a team, a staff together, because we've literally outgrown what we've got for several years now, and that's a challenge. How do you pull yourself out of a hole when you're down in a hole, they throw you a shovel and you want a ladder?
Sandy, how long, sorry,
Well, I would say 3 to 5 years, partly because that's generally about, minimum would be 3 years, because that's a cycle of typically a development or a subdivision.
how long outside of, I mean, are most future city clerks that work into that position college graduates, recent college grad hires? So how many years post-graduation could a potential clerk look at maybe being hired to run a city on their own? You know, if a new analyst or a new graduate came into Cedar Rapids, when would they be looking maybe to go out on their own?
I think that 3 to 5. I would say it's not a clerk, like a city planner coming in. If they wanted to go to a smaller city, I've seen it happen in 5 years, 3 to 5 years.
I was thinking 5+. Generally.
Somebody told me a while back, that the average city clerk around here only stays in their position for 3 years. That'd be a dynamic that might be interesting to look at too.
Is that Dave?
I need to be gone before 8.
Okay.
Okay.
Should be done here soon.
We
5
got a
years?
motion that's got to do too.
And so right around 5 years, and then
I think there's an amount of work experience in industry that you just had to add a number of reps in to have a library to draw on, right? To know how to handle certain situations. I guess that's where I'm coming from. And if it doesn't, it sounds like maybe the city clerk career track is very, you know, I'm from an industry that has a predefined progression from college graduate to director.
Well, then also you gotta look at it as like, they could be coming from,
For somebody to, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, they could be coming from somewhere that has, they could be 2 or 3 years and then just have had a lot of it, where they come to a smaller town where it's little of it. Like where they could have gotten educated within 2 or 3 years of just boom, 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 because they're coming from a larger community down to a smaller one where it's
It could be
raised
opposite.
up, or it could be the opposite.
I would say, I was talking to somebody at the League of Cities today, and I will tell you, the planners in Cedar Rapids are doing work, you know, on this thing for 2 or 3 years. I always said our planners during post-flood of '08, you know, flood years were like dog years, you know, like 1 year you had 7 years of experience because you were working on a zillion things at once. But typically, they're working on one thing, which means you come to a city like this and you're doing everything. Your city, small cities are harder than large cities. I had a full staff, you know, and so it's very different. I think what you were saying about, you called it a type C person. I haven't done, it's like one of I haven't done a disc, but the idea of having somebody who's very organized and is self-reliant, like you said, typing up the minutes stuff, you know, you think it can't be somebody who doesn't expect to do the work, because small cities, you do all your own work.
Right.
You know, we talk about department heads in here, but we don't have any. You know, when I talk to my counterparts in small cities and they go, yeah, I meet with my department heads weekly, and I go, oh, that'd be cool. Have a
Process in 30 minutes key.
It is.
If you've got process improvement, that covers everything. Because you can get the answers from there.
I think I would add to that, because I thought that, and you said, the other thing I would add to that is what you said is the ability to ask for help.
That's all part of process improvement.
is making sure you know what you don't know. Because here, I think people have not asked for help in the past or have not gotten the help, and therefore you spiral. And bringing in, because no one can know all of these things. It's impossible. And if you did know them all, you still don't have time to do it.
You have to recognize your shortcomings and be able to pull those resources in. And that's another thing that, would be really nice. Our staff is used to operating on its own because of a lack of leadership. Somebody, once we get a staff in place that is able to support them, then they're gonna have to be able to move our staff in that direction where they're willing to come and just not.
Perfect segue. How many heads, how many staff are they in charge of overseeing? How many are reporting to them right now?
For
Oh, yeah, 10.
We
Yeah,
can-
10
We'll have five, Yeah, you're kind of, yeah. We do payroll for the library as well.
Plus we have the volunteer, I mean, all under that umbrella is the volunteer fire
Fire
department.
departments that we manage.
So then,
That's 25, but that's
Those
volunteer.
So that's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
Is it quickly,
That's why the profile of the city, I mean, honestly, from the brochure standpoint, anybody that wants this job is gonna need a profile of the city. We have water, wastewater, garbage collection. They're gonna wanna understand what resources we
so
provide.
say what, 4 staff daily report to them, but I mean, they oversee
And it'll,
25 plus, well, 5 with the new addition.
I think a functional oversight is maybe more meaningful than numbers. Right, because it's one team with 3 individuals, but it's the water and wastewater, roads, parks for the entire town.
I think that staffing level helps understand the scope of what they're gonna be directly responsible for. If you have
I think it undersells.
I think it undersells it.
I think it undersells it.
I,
Especially when you throw in the fire department, and what that entails. And it's not direct black line hierarchy or responsibility, but it's awareness. It's being involved. It's more than just hierarchy. But
yeah, I think
we'll
that
figure that
undersells.
out.
Because the other side of selling it is that people are gonna wanna come here because it's a great city that has resources. The first thing everybody asks me is, are you financially stable? Is there money to spend? Nobody, who wants to come run a city that doesn't have any money? It's hard, it's bad. So,
So yes to financial stability.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, we can say yes if they ask, yeah.
I certainly answer yes. Water and wastewater, being able to, cities that have those utilities are attractive.
Okay.
But with those, that's the flip side is don't get to maintain those facilities.
Well, and the knowledge of the credentials required, you could, in a simpler organization, manage 100 people, and it's less functional requirements. It could be easier.
Yeah, I mentioned that today, that in a private organization or even in a big city, I have this responsibility and I might have 20 people or 90. Public Works had 90 people. They were doing some pretty straightforward things, but then when you look across, you're doing, asphalt, steel coat roads and wastewater treatment and soccer.
So less specialized, more jack of all trades.
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, that's it on my end for right now, unless you guys have anything else. Maybe we can set the motion for me to finalize this to get it posted tomorrow.
And I don't even know if we need that. I don't know that the action is needed to post.
I think we've already set up everything and given him the go-ahead.
I mean,
With
unless
our
you're,
last-
it's your desire to do something. The only reason I would want a motion, where I would ask you for a motion, is if you want to give him direction that says it's going to be posted till this date, or, you know, this salary range. And to me, you're asking him to do his job based on all this feedback you've given him. This, if you kind of leave it open-ended with him, then he gets to kind of be nimble and,
He's already got that.
right. I agree.
Which means that we probably should be nimble. I think what we've given him is 2 to 3 candidates at a time. But in the interest of moving through the process, that might require us to meet a couple extra times a month.
Right, I've already assumed it. I mean, we're going into budget season too, so, I mean, you kind of just assume you're gonna have more meetings.
And for that posting, whatever the word verbiage is, for our paper postings, then it's a minimum of 10 days. So,
We need your, once you post, we need a copy of that
Yep,
posting.
minimum of 10 days post, or minimum of 10 days from when we posted to get it to you.
Minimum 10 days posting before the candidates are, before a job is offered.
For the
Oh,
resident.
got it, so it's gotta be publicly posted before, 10 days before an offer can be made, so. Okay,
If you're okay with that, I don't think we need it.
Well, now, as far as the legal language behind it, you have the DOE types of statements, things like that. Do you have a legal team that reviews that, or compliance with?
reviews, well, I mean, we have a legal team, but reviewing what specifically?
Well, the language that goes along with the posting that says
Because it's a government position.
EOE, whatever other language, you know, I can't think of it now, but there are some certain things that have to be on the posting itself for the job.
I can have John, my boss, reach out to our legal team. I mean, we have a legal team.
I think everybody's under the same guidelines, equal opportunities, right?
Maybe we would use really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll just make
As
sure.
far as, if there's something about the requiring accommodations, those have to be.
Okay.
Do we want the Avalanche Gals review it before he posts it, maybe?
Right. His legal team should do it.
Okay. This question,
And that's what we're paying them for.
Yeah.
Do we want to do the resolution in the next meeting then? For supermajority, I'd like to have it as a.
Oh, that's not on today's agenda, so if you want to do something, yeah, and put it on the. Is the wording super majority, is that what you want, or is that, or do you want?
That's what I've always heard referred to.
Yeah, supermajority or four.
I mean, I don't imagine this breaking any other way, but you guys already know I'm committed to that. So, you know, that's,
I think it should be.
I'll do the exact same thing
That way
we
we-
did selecting.
From, I think it should be in writing and looked out.
So do you want a requirement of that, or what's your language, or do you want to send me some language? I'm happy with
I
this.
don't know what the language. All I wanted to say is that we will need a supermajority vote in order to hire any individual.
Is it something like the council desires to have, is it kind of aspirational?
Well, I
No,
don't know that it's an
I don't know that you can
aspiration,
require
but it's
that, can
a
you? There's certain
it's a
things that the law requires.
requirement, and that way, going forward even, we could always do a supermajority when we're hiring somebody.
that means a 3-2 vote fails. I
Correct.
mean, I think,
Right.
I would need to influence the house, so I don't even know if you can make yourself have that kind of, I mean,
Let's see what you think.
because your next vote would.
They can look at it, but
Your next vote would supersede.
We've already done that. And I've expressed, again, I don't see this breaking a different way. It could,
Let me think.
where it's not come down to me, but if it does come down to me, I'm not doing it. I want us to make this decision unanimously. And I've not wavered at all in commitment to that, so. I'm on board. Whether or not we can write a resolution, I don't see it happening.
I mean, you could do a motion, but it's not, what I put on here was really based on Graham's stuff and what you're doing. You're talking about the selection, so I don't feel comfortable that it's really on the
This
agenda.
would be
But-
more about what Graham's products are.
Yeah, so to your point, I think it should be in a future meeting. But you want it in writing, not a motion. So it's just not right. Okay. We'll try to do something. Excellent.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Sorry.
3 minutes.
Next question for you, Jim.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn by Fisher, second by All.
Do you,
All in favor?
so did you want me back? or-
Hold on, we have to go. All in favor? Opposed, same. Motion carries, we are adjourned. Thank you, folks.
Did you want me
Yeah,
back?
if you have notes to share, that'd be
I didn't.
Aye.
I've got my notes.